Thank you again for coming. The idea behind the CX Summit, this is a new format we're running, is to get together experts and leaders across various different sectors and backgrounds to share what they're working on this financial year, to give you some ideas to take away and some things to think about as well when you're looking at your strategy for this financial year. So we've got four speakers. So we get Neil Atkin from Greater Anglia, who is responsible for the happiness of 19 million passenger journeys on their rail service every year. We've got Rebecca Brown from ThinkWow, who is a top 50 CX influencer, works with a variety of different clients. So we'll have a good cross-section of knowledge to share with you. We've got Joanne Silner and Shuna from Ravenhausen, who are responsible for looking after some of the most vulnerable people in society and making sure they are well housed. And then we've got Bjorn from TomTom, the navigational company, who is head of experimentation there and responsible for helping to improve customer experience in their app. So yes, without further ado, we'll kick things off. We'll bring Neil Atkin to the stage, and hopefully Kilton can do that seamlessly in the background. There he is. So the format is always 10 minutes. And then if you want to drop Q&A, any questions you have into the chat, we'll ask Neil straight after his talk. So yeah, thank you very much, Neil. Take it away.
Thank you, Scott. Morning, everyone. As Scott said, I'm Neil Atkin. I'm the Head of Customer Experience at Greater Anglia. For those of you not familiar, Greater Anglia, we're a train company that serves the East Anglian region of the UK. We run 1,200 trains a day, 160 stations, 70 million thereabouts customers a year, and we're a business of about 3,000 colleagues. My team and I are responsible for conceiving and implementing our customer experience strategy. But perhaps most importantly, we're responsible, in my opinion, for holding ourselves and other teams and departments to account with our day-to-day delivery of our customer experience on the network. I'm going to talk to you today about three different initiatives. I've deliberately chosen three quite different initiatives: a cultural related initiative, an insight related initiative, and a sort of technology based initiative. So hopefully there's something in it for everyone. So kicking off, I'm going to first talk about something called our team code, which is obviously a cultural based initiative. Now, I'm assuming we all on this call would agree that the colleague experience really underpins the customer experience. And especially in our industry over the last few years, as I'm sure you'll be aware, we've had a pretty bumpy and still indeed continue to have a bumpy journey in rail. So this year we're really investing, to be honest, the majority of our effort in the colleague experience, because that is a particular area of focus that we know we can just do a lot more on. So based on colleague feedback, and in particular from January, when we got a range of colleagues from across our business all over the patch in all different grades, locations, we got them together alongside our senior management team and reviewed the results of our sort of annual colleague opinion survey. And one of the things that came out of that was really the need for us to have a set of standards, a code of conduct, if you like, for us to draw up about how we work with one another. There's just a bit too much inconsistency, pockets of it going really well and being great, pockets of it not being quite where it could be. So, you know, could talk about this for a long time, clearly I won't, but we've drawn together a team code which really captures the things that are really important for colleagues, especially our frontline colleagues, with how we work together with one another. And the threads of recognition and communication really run strongly through that. So it's categorized into three themes: team spirit, customer first, and looking forward. And really, when you put them together, that's how we're going to grow our internal culture, which, as I said at the top, we believe will be an investment in our customer experience this year. Not just doing that, though, and sticking up on posters and emailing out to people, which is perhaps the way we might have done things in the past. We're really investing in our management team and our leaders first, to immerse them in the team code, to equip them with the skills to make sure that they understand the team code, why it exists, why it's important, and get a toolkit so that it can then be briefed onwards to all colleagues. And we've made a commitment that all colleagues will receive a proper briefing from their manager or from a team of managers over a relatively short period of time, which again, for a train operator is quite logistically challenging, to really understand what the team code means for them and what it will benefit them and what we need from colleagues in order to make it land and be a success. So it's a really big cultural piece of work for us. As I say, one of the biggest things we're doing this year, and we're confident that we're giving our leadership team first the knowledge, skills and experience to be able to implement the team code and something that we can hopefully see grow our culture this year. That was just a very quick overview of the team code. Second up, an insight related initiative that we're doing this year is working title is a customer cabinet. Now, we've done a lot in the last year or so at maturing our customer experience, our customer insight regime. We've got a lot of feedback, a lot of quantitative and qualitative feedback. And we really got a good understanding, certainly as a customer experience team, of our customer journey and where the pinch points are and where we need to do more. And we've obviously got lots of forums to be able to talk to other parts of the business. And I mentioned at the top about holding each other to account with how we're doing with that. But what we really do, the challenge we really face, is not getting more data. It's really connecting the data to our teams and our teams really understanding what the customer experience is. So this year, we're developing something called a customer cabinet. We've got a few logistics still to sort out. We have done something like this before, but the aims of this is slightly different, as I'll just briefly mention. This isn't about getting more feedback. It's really about getting a small number of customers' experiences, emotions, and really bringing to life the customer experience. And us as a business really understanding how the Greater Anglia customer experience matters for customers, how, when it goes well, how we make people feel, what we enable people to do, how when we are inconsistent, when we don't get it quite right, the impact that has on people, real people in their lives. So again, we're really, we've got a few different options available to us. Clearly, videos, Vox Pops are sort of one option to us about how in Snapshot we can really bring the true customer experience into meeting rooms, into discussions, into action planning, and really just focus our efforts and focus people's minds on the reality, and really just use that to complement all our existing data, because we've got a lot of data. It's really just about bringing it to life. And of course, another advantage is that we get to be able to test things a bit more. It can be a two-way process. We'd like to be able to talk through some of our plans and some of our initiatives with a select group of our customers to just enable us to understand what the impact might be. Are we going to get this right? Is it going to do what we think it's going to do? So again, very briefly, that's my second initiative. And then the third one, a technology-based initiative, is really something called Smart Help Points. So as a rail operator, we have, in common with a lot of rail operators, we have a real mixture of stations out there, big stations, smaller stations. Some of our stations are staffed all the time, some are staffed some of the time, and some, as we have a lot of very rural and smaller stations, are not staffed at all. And so a help point, a button at a station, one of which we have at every station, at least one, is a way that at all times someone can speak to someone and find out any help or ask any questions if they need to know. The traditional model that we've had is you press a button, the call is eventually connected to somebody in a call center who can then answer your question. They've got full access to all our trained systems and information systems and planning so that they can answer a question. Now, clearly, there's an opportunity, which is what we're trialing at the moment, to use a conversational AI-based assistant which has also got access to the same systems to be able to automatically answer all those questions, to answer all those questions quicker, and also then free up the capacity in the space for others who do maybe have something more complex or do need to speak to someone to then be able to do that in a quicker manner. So it's a benefit for both. We've built in some redundancy, so if people still want to speak to someone, they can. There's always the option to do that. And the AI is trained to listen for particular words, and if they're concerned for anybody's safety, for example, it will automatically connect that person forward straight away as well. Already, we've seen some really good feedback, and what's particularly exciting about this is really the opportunity and the growth it presents, because this isn't just about answering the same questions but using AI. It's really about us being able to do more than we could previously with a help point. So, for example, and we serve Stansted Airport, a huge airport for Europe. We're able to deploy, and we will shortly be deploying, different languages so that it can understand and answer questions in different languages. how it can log faults automatically. So if someone is saying that there's a light not working or another issue at the station, again, it can automatically integrate with some of our systems to be able to raise tickets and be able to expedite some of the things that might otherwise have to go through a time-consuming process. And there's lots of other things that we've got planned as well. So really, we're just trying to use technology in a way that will make a difference to our customers, and you know, given the operating model that we're within, be able to add something back. So those were a whistle-stop tour of the 3 initiatives. Hopefully I didn't run over my time, Scott. Happy to take any questions.
You timed that impeccably, Neil. Well done, mate.
Luke.
I love these. These are great initiatives, like all the way from like people to technology. Really interesting. So we've got 2 questions, which are kind of might be able to tie together in some kind of way. So one from Umberto and then one from Rebecca. So the first one was, what foundational advice would you give to a business starting to use AI in their CX strategy? And Rebecca's is kind of somewhat linked, which is, how do your customer-facing teams actually feel about the introduction of this AI chat function? Are they embracing it or feeling a little bit nervous? And if so, how have you helped them feel okay about the change?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good, really good, and I can see the link between the two. I mean, we're also, as you'll appreciate, a heavily unionized industry. So clearly, more than anything, like how this lands with colleagues is important, because it can have, as you know, you'll be all too aware, potential impact. So we've trialed it first. Is the first thing I'd say. Like, we just haven't gone and rolled this out. As I mentioned, we've got 160 stations. You know, we haven't just pressed the button and launched this everywhere. We've trialed it at literally 2 sites very near our office here, on 2 real stations nearby, just to see how it works, test the functionality. We've been doing that really for quite some time, and ironing it out so that it doesn't create us any more issues, because there have been a few blips along the way where it hasn't quite worked as intended, despite various testing. So we've made sure we've done that. We're piloting it on a wider scale now, so it is across the network. But as I say, we've done that. We've worked with colleagues to make sure that they know what this can do, and that they're familiar with how it can work. And as I made a point of saying, it can still integrate, it still signposts the other available options that we have. So it can still connect someone to an actual help, to a voice at the end of the phone. And it is aware, because it's because the help points are fixed in particular stations, it knows where it is, and it can tell people who could be available at the station depending on where people are. So we've really taken some time. It has taken quite a long time, in fact, you know, best part of 8-9 months now, from when we first piloted it to actually rolling out now. And I mentioned some of the enhancements that we'll be doing in a phased basis over the way to just grow it slowly. Like, we've definitely gone for the route of growing it slowly, rather than you know, here's something that can do absolutely everything coming tomorrow.
Yeah, just that kind of phasing it in approach. Yeah, I love that. But yeah, thank you very much, Neil, for joining us. That was really useful. I've got a good couple of notes here, which I'm going to take away and talk with the team, particularly around this customer cabinet. I think that's a great initiative with some excellent branding as well. So yeah, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
So throw your thanks in the chat for Neil. Go and follow him on LinkedIn, and send him thanks. So Kilton in the background is going to reorient the speakers now. So we're going to say bye-bye to Neil, and we're going to welcome to the stage Rebecca Brown. And there she is, as if by magic. It's all working so well. So yes, yeah. I'll let Rebecca introduce herself. She's our consultant of the day. So remember, pop your questions in the chat. Yeah, take it away, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Scott. Firstly, thanks for having me. It's always a great pleasure to be able to talk about customer experience for any length of time. So I'm very glad to be here today. I am Rebecca Brown. I'm co-founder of Think Wow. We are a training provider and strategist for customer experience across multiple industries globally. And we work with businesses to help them empower their teams and ultimately enhance their customer experience. Before I kind of kick off with the main initiatives that we're focusing on at the moment, I think it makes sense to just sort of set the scene a little bit, and to say, well, firstly, there really is no one size fits all. So what I'm talking to you all about today really, there are some initiatives that we've found have worked incredibly well with some of our clients, but they wouldn't necessarily be the solution to all your problems. It's just something that we have noticed over time. They are recurring. They're recurring issues. And there are three main barriers to customer experience success that we do see on a regular basis, time and time again. And the initiatives I'll talk to you about today will hopefully start to help you solve some of those issues if they are the issues that you're experiencing within your organisation. And very much on the same themes as Neil, we're going to look firstly at some cultural issues, then a little bit to do with insights, and then also to do with AI. But hopefully I've gone in such a different direction that you guys won't get bored listening to me repeating those kind of key themes. So the first barrier that we see does occur in very many businesses is that cultural barrier where the wider organization just doesn't understand the part that it plays in the customer experience. They haven't had any training invested in them. Perhaps they have, but they've kind of let it fade into the background when they've gone back to doing their day-to-day jobs. And it can be incredibly important to harness that wider organization when you're looking at any customer experience initiative. So that's the first thing that I'll address today. The second thing will be to look at the fact that so many businesses still see complaints as a real negative. They try to avoid them at all costs, and they're not embracing them in a way that can help to drive insights into the organization in an efficient way. And then the final thing that I'll talk to you a little bit about today is, as I mentioned, AI, but in particular, the fact that some businesses either haven't embraced AI for fear of not doing it properly. There were some poorly implemented AI solutions in the early days of AI that I think put a lot of people off, or they've perhaps gone the ultimate other direction and they have really heavily invested in AI, believing that it is the solution to all of their CX woes. And they have kind of gone a bit further along the line and found that perhaps that isn't the case, and that they perhaps need to also look at some of the other areas of their customer experience too. So bearing in mind those three key barriers to customer experience success, there are three main initiatives that we are driving through all of the businesses that we're working with currently at Think Wow. The first is to make sure that businesses take what we call a health and safety approach to customer experience. And that might sound like I'm talking about a completely different industry, a completely different topic, but actually it's about that mindset shift. It's about recognizing that actually when we look at customer experience as an industry, we've only really existed for sort of 15, maybe 20 years in some areas. And that makes us a fairly young industry. We're the babies of the business world. When you look at more established businesses, they maybe even haven't got customer experience teams because they were created and grown at a time when customer experience just wasn't the focus. Either that, or they have had to add the customer experience teams in later, and the rest of the organization perhaps just doesn't see that customer experience is critically important for everything that we do. They see it as the job of the customer experience team. If we look at the way businesses treat health and safety on the flip side, health and safety has been around for a very long time. Every single business will have prioritized it to a really high degree. When you start in a new job, you go through a health and safety induction, no matter what your role is or where you sit in the business, no matter whether you actually lift any boxes or not, you'll go through that manual handling training. And the business goes to great lengths to set the expectation that that health and safety is really important to the organization. It takes time to empower every single employee to know what's important when it comes to health and safety and how they can play a part in the wider health and safety of the organization. So if we were to look at taking that same approach, but use it for customer experience, can you imagine a business where absolutely every single employee knows the role that they play in the customer experience, whether they're customer facing or non-customer facing? They all feel empowered to make action, to take things in the right direction for the customer experience. And that actually everybody understands the huge importance of switching away from a reactive customer experience to a proactive one. So no matter which department they sit in, they're on the lookout for red flags. They're looking for, is there a customer outcome at risk, is there anything we can do to stop that outcome from going wrong before it has a chance to go wrong? Can we help that customer feel a bit safer? And we're ultimately delivering all of that through enhanced training programs for both non-customer facing teams and customer facing teams. So that's my first piece of advice, is try and attack that cultural issue in the same way that businesses have for health and safety over the years. The second thing I mentioned was that not everybody loves complaints. And I think that's a really natural place to come from. When we look at synonyms for the word complaining, we get words like moaning, whinging, whining, belly aching. None of those are positive. So it's absolutely understandable that when we look at the customer facing teams and the non-customer facing teams in our organizations, they are going to be reluctant to deal with complaints. They're going to feel a bit hesitant. They're not going to want complaints at all. And what that can often result in is it becomes difficult for customers to raise complaints and to ask for help. And what we know is that there have been multiple different studies, lots of different stats out there floating around, ranging from stats like as many as 91% of unhappy customers will leave a business without ever raising a complaint, all the way to the other end saying that only 1 in 26 will raise a complaint if they're unhappy. Whichever set of stats you choose to use as your guiding force, it's really clear that there is a problem. Most customers will not tell us what's gone wrong for them. They will just leave. And that's such a wasted opportunity. So if we can actually recognise that the complaints we do receive are like gold dust, they matter so much because we're not hearing from all of the unhappy customers, we're just hearing from those ones who really bother. And those people who do get through to us could well represent a wider range of customers experiencing the same issues. So if we can switch away from feeling a bit reluctant to get complaints to really embracing them, to making it as easy as possible for our customers to reach out and ask for help, then we will have much more data, much more insights available to us on the things that are causing our customers pain. We'll genuinely be able to fix their problems and reduce complaint volumes for the right reasons, because we're solving problems, not just making it harder for our customers to reach out. So that's my second initiative that I'd recommend everyone goes through, is a period of time where you really aim to almost increase the volume of complaints you're getting by making it as easy as possible for your customers to reach out for help. And then finally, the hot topic of today, everybody's talking about AI. It seems like everywhere you go, in terms of customer experience, AI is now absolutely unavoidable. And actually, I've switched my perspective on that over time. It used to be that I was really nervous of AI. I was very reluctant to look at it for our clients, because my experience with it personally as a consultant had been that people tended to rush implementations. They didn't necessarily research where their customers wanted AI, and sometimes they saw it as a replacement for human beings, which is absolutely the wrong direction to go in. What I would say is that if you're considering utilising technology in your business to improve your customer experience, then the first place to always look is, where can we remove manual processing? Most of our teams will really hate doing lots of manual tasks, so actually it will make their lives easier. It's a change that they will want to embrace, because it will just take them less time to do the sort of slightly more boring areas, and it frees them up to be able to talk to your customers more and be where they're needed most. The second thing is that if you're then looking to also implement AI in a customer-facing way, much like Neil's just discussed, it's about really understanding your customers, taking the time to understand through customer listening sessions and customer journey mapping exactly where your customers need the human touch, where they really want to speak to a person versus where they're prepared to accept a little bit of self-service. If you can take that time to understand your customers and their needs before you implement anything, then ultimately you will make sure that your initiatives have a much better, more positive impact. You will have the people where they're needed, and you will free up more of their time to deal with the critical issues that our customers care about the most, versus trying to kind of put in a one-size-fits-all solution, I suppose. So I guess in summary, the three things that I would suggest any business looks at are to train all customer-facing and non-customer facing teams to take that health and safety approach to customer experience, to open their mind to look for the risk factors that could potentially impact customers, to help your teams to learn to love complaints and embrace the insights that they can provide as really valuable gold dust, and to ultimately take that time to understand customers better and where they need the human touch versus where they're really happy with a tech solution. And that's it from me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to need to get tips from the customer experience people on marketing. I love this health and safety approach, Brandon. It's so memorable. I love it. We've got a really good question from Adriana in the chat, which is some more love for the health and safety approach. How do you start the cultural change business-wide? Do you think that workloads that are busy influence how colleagues are perceiving their role in CX, and how do you speak to the leadership teams about an initiative like that?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. And generally speaking, we tend to start out the same way in every single project, regardless of what the goals are going to be. And that is to interview all of the senior leadership. So we speak to every single one of them to understand what are their perceptions of customer experience? Do they see it as valuable right now? What are their priorities, and how can we link customer experience back to their priorities so that we can get their buy-in very early on? But we don't just speak to the leadership team. We actually use that same approach at every single level across the organization and speak to people in every single job role so that we have representation from every area of the business. We tend to try and treat all employees as key stakeholders in any project, because that way you understand from the very beginning what the cultural mindset is and how much work needs to be done in terms of setting that scene, getting the buy-in, getting the understanding before you try and actually drive any substantial change. So that's the first thing we do, and we then utilize that information to build the training so that it's really tailored and feels really relevant. Because the one thing that we have absolutely come to understand over time is that if you're asking non-customer facing teams to spend time out of the business focusing on customers, they have to see the relevance, they have to feel that value. So that's kind of the way that we would approach that. And we found that actually speaking with that health and safety language, people get it. You know, they've been talking about health and safety for decades. This isn't a new area. It's just getting them to understand that customer experience is just as critical to a business's survival as making sure that we're, minimizing accidents in the workplace.
Perfect. We've got two more questions that we can hopefully squeeze in. So how do you see AI evolving in CX personalization over the next few years?
Well, I think for me, that a large part of that evolution has happened already. It's kind of happened in our personal lives versus in business. So most of us use AI in some way or shape or form at home, whether it's talking to Alexa to ask what the weather's going to be like and hoping she doesn't say rain, or, looking at how we use Netflix, for example, and it pops up with our recommendations based on how we've been working. It's sort of snuck in very, very subtly to the point where we all accept it in our personal life. So I think for me, that biggest evolution in the business world is for us to gain that same acceptance. There's still a lot of nervousness around AI, a lot of justifiable nervousness when it comes to colleagues and kind of some of the historical decisions that have been used to try and reduce headcount in favor of tech solutions. So I think for me, I'm seeing that change. I'm seeing the reversal of those decisions in a lot of cases where people made really drastic decisions and then realized actually that customers really need people still. So that can offer a bit of reassurance. But I think over time, it's about understanding from our colleagues where they feel they need the most support, where most of their time is spent, and looking at how can we actually use AI to support the colleagues to feel less stressed, to feel like they've got more time to focus on customers. We still hear one of the biggest gripes coming from customer-facing teams is they see problems all day long and they're never given the time to solve those problems. So they see the same things happening time and time again. And what they'd love is to just have a week to say, what are the solutions? Let's sit down, let's get our heads together. So maybe if AI can free up some of their time, that's kind of a good direction of travel.
Love that. Right. So we'll have one last question. We'll take one from Pete Degan. So he loves this. He wants to know, how do you mitigate the issues of trust when AI inevitably gets something wrong? It's never 100%. So how do you work with teams to build that trust?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think that actually I would take it back to the fact that we all make mistakes. As humans, we absolutely get that we make mistakes, that we're still learning, and that from time to time we'll get things wrong. How we handle that is the most critical factor. When you consider your own customer experiences, when you're out and about on a day-to-day basis shopping with Amazon or whoever it is, you won't necessarily remember the issue and what went wrong as much as you will remember how the fallout was handled by a business. It's how they kind of take ownership and grab the issue with both hands and say, like, we're going to fix this for you, that makes the most difference. And I think it's the same with AI. You know, yes, it might be human beings who have to pick up that fallout, but having worked in complaint handling for many, many years, most of the complaints I was dealing with were not my creation. They were creations by my colleagues, and I still had to deal with the fallout and have to kind of rebuild that trust with customers and again with colleagues. And I think AI is the same. We just see it as an extension to our team, as a kind of little robotic colleague that we might have to occasionally clean up for. And it's just about ownership really, isn't it? Saying, you know, yes, it got it wrong, but it's still learning. We're investing time into it. Your feedback's incredibly valuable, whether it's from colleagues or whether it's from customers, making sure they feel heard, listened to, closing that loop. It's, you know, it is kind of customer experience 101. It's just, I think, maybe about seeing AI less as technology and more as a little robot human sidekick.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And Dan, we'll pick up your question towards the end, and I'll pop that across to Rebecca, and hopefully she'll get a reply to you on that one. But thank you so much, Rebecca. These are excellent. We get a virtual round of applause. Go and follow Rebecca Brown on LinkedIn. Send her some thanks. Yeah, thank you very much. So, Kilton, if you could take Rebecca off the stage, please. Wave bye-bye. My CEO was on the call, so it would be remiss of me not to spend 60 seconds telling you about Wordnerds and what we do before our next guests. So for those that don't know who Wordnerds are, we help customer-centric companies, much like yourselves, accelerate their customer insights process. So we give you more time to drive impact instead of being drowned in the mountains of data. For people like Neil, who have 19 million passenger journeys, it's just so much data to analyze. So we go through that data, whether that's surveys, chat, email transcripts, call center transcripts, or reviews. And we use a very unique approach to help generate insights in your behalf and with your teams. So we have built a text analysis platform from the ground up that includes AI, corpus linguistics, and aspects of behavioral science. We've been in the AI game since 2015, so way before the hype cycle of ChatGPT. The second thing that makes us different is the trust in our insights. So there's always a human between the AI and any insights that we send your team. So we help create reports and train the AI specifically for your business and your business's unique needs. And it's low risk as well. So we don't require big upfront 12-month commitments. We can help run one-off projects with your teams to understand if a use case you have in your business is useful to go ahead with. So if you've got a mountain of customer feedback data, but you don't have the resource to analyze all of it, get in touch to see how we might help. And with that out of the way, we'll welcome Joe and Shuna to the stage from Ravenhausen, who are going to share their 3 big initiatives that they're working on this year. We've got a double header as well, so we get a 2-for-1 on this segment. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. So yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Joanne Silner. I'm the Head of Customer Experience at Raven Housing Trust. I'm joined with my colleague, Shuna China, who is our Customer Engagement Manager. And so just a little bit about Raven Housing Trust. We're a housing provider based in Surrey. We manage over 6,000 homes. And our mission is to build homes and change lives. And it's really kind of this purpose that I would say is motivated to be in the housing sector for over 15 years, which is a little bit scary, I have to say. Raven has just completed a very ambitious transformation programme, which culminated this year in us having one single system for our customer data and property data. So for those of you on the webinar from housing, you will know that that is just an amazing position to be in. And it's also opened up a lot of opportunities for us to investigate things like AI and chatbots, which we are currently piloting as well. So very topical from the speakers that we've heard from. It's fair to say that the housing sector has faced some considerable challenges over the last few years since the Grenfell Tower tragedy, and we've really had to rebuild that trust that we've been talking and hearing about through improved communication, transparency, more proactive safety measures. But it's fair to say that we are still on that journey. From the 1st of April, the Regulator of Social Housing has introduced the consumer standards, and the Housing Ombudsman has introduced the complaints handling code. So we are now continue to be a very regulated industry, and a lot of change is going on in the sector. But the consumer standards particularly are encouraging housing providers to continually improve their service by listening to customers. And I think at Raven that really resonates with us, because it's on a journey that we have already started on. And so the initiative that I wanted to talk to you about along with Shun today is our Every Interaction Matters initiative. So this is an initiative that I would say is quite a bold and aspirational approach to how we define how we connect with our customers. And really the core of our vision is a commitment to truly knowing our customers and who's behind the door of our homes, but also to really understand and listen to their experiences so that we can use that to improve our services now and also redesign them into the future. So Every Interaction Matters has 4 strands. So the first is around understanding that every journey has a touch point. There's a real pivotal moment for us to hear the customer voice. So it's an opportunity to really make sure that we are reflecting what the customer is telling us about that every step of that journey. And some of the things that we've started to do as part of that initiative is design manager briefing across the organisation so that they understand more about how to co-create services when we come to doing reviews, and Shun will tell us a little bit about that shortly, but also to be able to support managers and frontline staff around how we truly engage with customers at every point. We're also delivering that in conjunction with a reviewed culture framework. So I think that it's already been mentioned that how important culture is in the organisation, and I completely agree with that. We have just reviewed our culture and behaviour statements, and putting customer first is one of those statements. And actually Every Interaction Matters campaign is really emphasising the need that every single one of our colleagues has a part to play in our customer journey and making that a really great experience, and that every interaction really does matter for our customers from each of those staff members. And the second is around the other part of that is around making sure that our staff rather have the opportunity to tell us about what they're hearing from our customers, and we're designing a platform to make that easy for them to do. The second strand of the campaign is around committing to really knowing our customers and using data to really gain insights into their experience and their needs and their preferences. This is a massive part of the consumer standards, and it's about enabling us to tailor services that are not just responsive to our customers, but are inclusive and are recognising their diversity and individual needs, so that we can design experiences in that way. We've already started on a massive data collection project as part of the consumer standards requirements, and it's fair to say the housing sector is we lag behind this in terms of customer data and really leveraging it to deliver services to our customers. But as I say, it's something that we just started on, and we are again engaging all of our colleagues in collecting data and really understanding the importance of it. We do house the most vulnerable of society, and customers are coming to us with more and more with vulnerabilities that we need to know about and record, and also make reasonable adjustments. So it's a really important current situation for the housing sector around that. And also how we use data is a really important part of this initiative. So designing and implementing reports so that we can identify our hard to reach customers, that we really understand who's accessing our services and how they're doing that, and also to make sure that there is equitable outcomes for all of our demographics and our customer groups. And the third part of the initiative is around empowering our customers and telling us about our services. So making sure that those channels are accessible. So I know Rebecca was talking about complaints, making our complaints policy and process accessible to our customers, but also making sure that they are aware of the opportunities that they have to tell us about our policies and our procedures. So we are communicating when we are updating our strategy. We did a massive customer consultation around really what matters to our customers that are fed into our strategic plan and the objectives that we're going to be working on in the next financial year. And we're also looking at how we engage what I would say would be our more sort of traditional resident consultation and groups, and really looking at whether that's fit for purpose in today's society, and actually, again, thinking what can we do that's more innovative to make sure that customers can tell us easily about what they think about our services. And we've also reviewed our surveys, so making sure that there's that follow-up and that feedback. So if a customer is taking time to tell us about our service, how are we going back to them, and how do they know that their feedback and their time that they took to answer that survey is valued, and we're going to be doing something with that tangibly. And the fourth strand is really, I think, the most important. It's the strand that brings all of this together. So we started working with Wordnerds almost a year ago now, and it has been hugely impactful for us to bring all of the customer insight that I've mentioned for all of these different areas into one place. And what it has enabled us to do is basically identify 6 key areas where our customers are saying, you know what, you can do a little bit better here, folks. And we've used that to plan communication across the service delivery areas with that insight. It's fed into our strategic plan, and it's also fed into our culture statements and review. We are incredibly excited for the next part of this initiative, which is where we've actually introduced call centre analysis into our customer service centre. So we are able to now feed all of our transcripts of our calls back into the Wordnerds platform as well. So that's a massive part of obviously how customers contact us and tell us about our services and why they're contacting us. So that is going to be being kicked off soon, and I'm really excited to see kind of what insight that and what plans we can use with that data going forward. So that's a little bit about the very whistle-top story of the initiative, Every Interaction Matters. I'm just going to pass over to Shuna now, just to take one strand of that, which is co-creation, which you're really passionate about. So Shuna, I'll hand over to you, if that's okay.
Okay, thanks, Jo. So as Jo said, one of our initiatives that we've done as part of the Every Interaction Matters, and that we've had real success with, is our co-creation with customers, where we contact and co-create with our customers to shape our strategy, policies and procedures. So we've regularly been engaging with our customers to shape services and improve the customer experience from the start, understanding there's no point writing a policy unless we're really clear of understanding actually what the experience of our customer has been with that current service. So understanding the true service experience from our customers, we're able to shape our delivery to fit their needs. We do this by using the insight we already have. So obviously, as Jo was mentioned, the Wordnerds insight we have all in one platform, but also it's using the insight that we gain from complaints, and even where we need to find those gaps, we have an understanding of where the experience of our customers have been. We identify the gaps to gain a better understanding from looking at what we've already got, and we trigger key actions to improve our services and deliveries to deliver an excellent service going forward. So all of the work that we do with kind of our co-creation fits into and is captured in what we call our customer engagement service improvement plan. It captures the learnings that we've gained from the customer experience through those co-creation works. It identifies the learning action of what needs to be applied to reduce the likelihood of that learned experience happening again. And it highlights the key outcomes of what improvements this has made to the customer experience by putting forward those particular actions. So some examples of this, Jo mentioned earlier, we did a big piece of co-creation work to design our new strategic plan. And we actually used the Wordnerds platform to do the sentiment analysis, which was fantastic because it really picked out the key points and priorities that our customers were talking about and what was important to them to make sure our objectives fitted around that. We've also done a piece of work around our ASB policy and process, and doing the co-creation work. identified that understanding a clear definition of what ASB was. So we went out and asked actually from our customers, what do you think ASB is? How do we categorize this? Highlighting the customer pain points that they have throughout the process, or where it doesn't work. And this was done targeted with customers who had experienced the process. So we did it with a group of customers who already had raised an ASB, but we also did it with a group of customers that had an interest in antisocial behaviour as well. So it was a wide group. But with this, we were able to look at and where we needed to identify some maybe delivery of a personal service on certain points, and also what enforcement actions we want to put in place. We've also done some co-creation work around our damp and mould policy. Obviously, with the new changes of the regulation and stuff, we thought it was really important to have an understanding of what our customers' experience was. So part of this, it was about being from a customer's perspective, the experience of having a clear process of how we will deal with damp and mould, thinking about the right communication that we need to have with our customers, and better use of our stock condition data so we can predict and understand where particular properties obviously may fall within, have issues with damp and mould, and increasing that line of spot checks of the work that's carried out, and going back and making sure that the damp and mould issue has been resolved. And we've also done a piece of work around our no access policy, in particular around our compliance inspections, so things like your gas boiler checks, fire safety, etc. And that again came out about customers wanting to have a clear process of how this happens, with clear steps of customers being aware of these. Our awareness of from our customers was they fully realise the legal requirement, they fully understand the health and safety requirements behind that. But it was about actually them understanding we need a clear process of how you do this, reviewing our appoints process for the compliance checks, so how we go about doing that and how our customers involved in these, and the feasibility of putting in place charges, potentially of no-show. It was a controversial question that we wanted to ask out there with our customers, but really kind of understanding from them, if we can't get access, and we've gone through all the ways of doing this, should be, or if someone doesn't turn up, should we be charging? And that's not only for the customer, that's also if the contractor that's delivering that service doesn't turn up. So I just wanted to cover as well, as part of the co-creation work and stuff we're doing a big project at the moment about repair service design. We find basically going right from the start, working out where we need to be. And the co-creation stuff that we do is fantastic in this. And we're currently doing a repair service design. We're using the insight that we've already have. So understand these complaints, the information we have literally from our customers, and identify the pain points, and overlaying this with the customer journey and maps that we're putting together for each process of a repair. As you can imagine, there's quite a few, and it identifies what improvements we can add to the process and the ways that we need to be able to be communicating with our customers throughout that process. So it's a couple of things that we picked up. It's that thing about the acknowledgement. It's understanding the schedule of works, understanding what work's going to be carried out and at what time and in what order. This is for the customer, and also that case management. And we know we've got specific complex jobs, or we might have a customer with particular needs, trying to improve the customer experience about how we case manage to ensure that they have an understanding of what they're doing. So that's quick of a co-creation.
Cool, thank you very much, guys. Loads of good stuff in there. It sounds like he's been very busy this year. We don't have time for questions, but there is one in the chat that you might want the answer from Adriana. I think she's very jealous that you've got all your data in one place, and just wants to know kind of what system and what process you've used to do that. So can we do a big virtual round of applause for Joe and Shuna? And we've got our final speaker now joining us on the stage momentarily, Bjorn. There he is. Lovely. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
So yeah, Bjorn is from TomTom and is joining us from the not so sunny Porto. So he's joined a lot of British event, and we have brought the weather for him to Porto. So you're very welcome. Yeah, and take it away.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, guys. I'm very excited to be here. Like said by Scott, my name is Bjorn. I'm experiment lead at TomTom for the consumer department. And I think most of you here are from the UK. And my name is a little bit misleading because it sounds Scandinavian, but it's not. And my ginger beard is also a little bit misleading because it might give you some leprechaun vibes. I'm not from Ireland as well. I'm actually from the Netherlands, from Amsterdam. And what I want to talk to you about today is about TomTom. And when people think about TomTom, people remember this from these navigation devices who are stuck on your windshield, right, when you're driving. I guess everyone still remember those. And then when I say that I'm working for TomTom, and especially being experimentation lead, it's the single question I get asked the most is like, do they still exist, like TomTom? I know they were big back in the days, but do they still exist now? And yes, it is true indeed that we were once king of navigation, and but now we are basically switching. We're really in transition from going from hardware to software as a challenger. And we built an app, the TomTom Go navigation app, where I'm responsible for, together with the team, and really driving that with experimentation. It's really a big factor in this. So with our app, we're actually battling between against Google Maps and Waze, which is not an easy journey. And when I was asked by Scott for joining this webinar, I was like, I guess Scott, but this is more like the CX folks and UX folks maybe. A little bit more in the experimentation side. But Scott gave a very good comment, and he said that there is a big gap in terms of taking insights and really making an impact. And that really resonated with me. And therefore, I created the following 3 bets. And it might be a little different perspective than you have heard before, but here they are. One I want to talk to you about is strategy. And that's really more about how can we really break down high-level targets and goals or OKRs really in more strategic things we can and solutions we can measure, especially also test. Then the second thing I want to talk about is more diving and invest more in opportunity discovery research. I saw in the beginning of this chat that there was a poll up, and I think the most voted one was generating valuable insights, and I got the 43% people wanted that. So I'm diving a little bit into that. And the third point I have eventually is more educating colleagues around us and your team about really doing good research. So those are lined up, and let me start with the first one. So I said that the first bet is more about strategy. And what I mean with this is like turning these high-level OKRs and high-level goals, where normally we got from management, into smaller strategic testing or solutions we can do for our customers. Because the problem, what I see is that many organizations fail actually to link these solutions to the big picture goals we are setting them and trying to break them down, right? Because management is mostly focused on revenue targets and these high-level goals, and we optimizers and UX and experimentation folks, we are more at the end of the funnel, more busy with designing and generating new ideas. So what I'm seeing is that the art of connecting, revenue, your OKRs, to the solutions or those experimentations is actually often lost. And I call this a strategic gap we're missing, like really hitting our revenue goals and OKRs and break them down into like the experimentation to make better decisions. Because that's what experimentation is actually all about. We experiment, we validate, to make better decisions for the whole company. So what I want to talk to you about is that within TomTom, we actually took this very seriously, and we saw also we had this strategic gap. Most of the time, people really come with a lot of new ideas to solve things, right? Oh, we can do this, we can do that. But it felt most of the time really with shooting with hail instead of being really focused on solving a particular problem or opportunity. So what we have been doing is in the team is we create a framework where it really breaks down the revenue targets into OKRs, into the opportunities. So really breaking down step by step, right? Like you have the revenue, we break it down into, okay, what are the KPIs linked to that? What are the most important metrics we want to focus upon? And then we also break down our OKRs, high level metrics, what we have. But it doesn't stop there, because most of people stop there and they're like, this is OKRs, this is what we need to achieve, let's go. And we took it a little bit step further in this framework we're using. So we broke down these OKRs, right? So like this high level goal you are having, for example. And you break it down into an opportunity. And opportunities are actually customer pains and gains and frictions you found via research. And when you find those opportunities, you even try to further break those down into solutions, which we eventually then test and validate. To not make this a very long story, I actually just did a post about this on LinkedIn where you can really see the whole framework. So if you're interested in like, hey, how are you doing this? What is Björn talking about? You can actually go to my profile there and just check it out. But what I wanted to say about it is that if you do that more process strategic way of doing stuff, especially the mapping part, if you map it out for yourself, everything becomes so clear, and it also forces you to really think through everything. And it brought us a lot of value instead of those big ideas going from everywhere. We really managed into getting specifically ideas about that particular problems we're trying to solve that also are connected to the goals we want to achieve in this quarter or this year for the company. So that's really, really helped us. So that's bet number one. Then the second one is, like I said, is more about opportunity discovery research. And it's really much linked. Because it is what I also see is that diving deeper into opportunities, I just talked about, is really, really key. An opportunity, like I said, opportunity, right, is the customer needs, pains, and gains, and the friction you discover by research. And the opportunity space is also really where the magic happens. So if you understand the customer pains and gains and everything really, really well, then yeah, it's much easier to create solutions for it as well. But here's the problem what I'm seeing, and that is, it seems like no one is really in charge of uncovering new opportunities and problems. It's not really clear most of the times in organizations, especially bigger ones, whose responsibility it actually is. So you think it would be the UX team, maybe it's us folks, experimentation or CX folks out there. But in many organizations, no one is really taking responsibility and of really mapping that and really looking into it, in these opportunities. And we're all just busy with designing IDs and validating IDs, which is more at the end of the process. And what I'm trying to say is we should actually move a little bit more upfront and think really like, what did the research say? What did we find? What are those opportunities where we found? Right? And again, I like processes, and I'm geeking out a little bit about this stuff. But actually can do it very, very easily. And what we did, we started a year ago. We created just simple by using a Miro board. I divided into steps, how you can really go from some data insights really into those, making it valuable, and really also go more into the strategic testing or really getting to that solution you want to fix. And basically 4 steps. I just want to run through very quickly. One is first, what you do first is in the Miro board, you first just collect all your data and insights. It can be from surveys or user interviews you did, or heat maps or analytic tools. Basically, just plot everything in there. And that's the first raster. Then, and this is a very important one actually, the second step is that you write down the data insight on sticky notes and you don't do anything else. So what you found, you write down on a sticky note in the next column what you found, and don't jump into conclusions yet. because that's what we tend to do, right? We found something and like, I found this, so that means we're gonna do this. Let's do that. No, don't go there yet. Just only write down, the insights really. Because in step 3 is where we're gonna make use of all these sticky notes. So imagine you have all these sticky notes, all these data insights, like 30 different sticky notes from different sources. And then we're gonna read them over, and then also some magic happens, because you will see when you read them over, you start seeing some patterns and themes. And by clustering then those sticky notes together, those themes and patterns will appear. And this is really where the magic happens, because, and that's eventually step 4, when you use those themes, for example, in our app, really a theme that came forward because our app is not free, for example, people were a little bit, we saw frustration that people thought the app was free, and then eventually they saw it wasn't. So then that is something really found odd. So people are frustrated when they see the paywall, that there's frustration about pricing. So, okay, guys, how can we formulate? So I know this is opportunity, right? It's an opportunity, something to do with the pricing. The solution is, it can be anything. It can be, right? We can think about, we can have many ways to solve this. But the key is then to phrase it well. And what we are using to phrase these questions very well, might have heard from it, is the how might we format. I really love it. It's like you state in basically you turn your problem or your opportunity into how might we format. So for example, for us it was, how might we reduce the irritation or the frustration about about the paywall and people are experiencing. And if you phrase it like that, you get very, very specific ideas, which is just, I mean, and this is really powerful. So that was number 2, and the last bet I have is it's all linked, and that's mostly about the research part. And then my last bet is also teaching, especially also in my team, is teaching people how to do research and to improve the quality of the research, because there is actually a lot of ignorance and misconception about what good research actually looks like. So the biggest misconception is actually that that is easy, right? It's it's just creating a couple of questions, you put them in a survey, and then boom, it goes out, and after a week we have all the data, and that's great, right? No, it's not great, because it can be very dangerous. It's actually wrong, because it's so important to ask the right questions with the right method and the right format. And so yeah, to get the data you're getting out of the surveys are really, really valuable, but not only valuable, also of high quality. So you know what? I just had this recently experience, and then what is more dangerous than not collecting data is actually collecting bad data, and we are making decisions based on that bad data. So yeah, my bet is like really to teach also the team what is good research, right? And if you don't know it, ask the expert, because we have those. Most of us actually have those expertise somewhere in the company, really good researchers, or how it's been done, right? And I think the most important questions for us to ask is, first of all, if you're going to do research, understand, is the research really going to help us? Is it really going to help the business, right? Is it really going to help the company move forward? Because you just need to make sure that, again, the research is really connected to your KPIs and your goals. Otherwise, it's not that relevant. And I see that also many times that that people want to do a research on a particular part of the website or whatever. But if you ask the question like, yeah, but is this part of the website really relevant? Is it really moving the needle? And if it's like so or not really, why would you focus that much on it, right? So that's one. Another one is yeah, phrasing the research question is also a big challenge, because if you don't phrase your research question well, how are we able to define which research method is best? So yeah, that is my third bet, to educate my team better on how to conduct good research, and otherwise ask the experts, because you wrap them all together, right? I talked about strategy, how to connect everything. I talked about the opportunity research we need to do, and also specifically doing good research. And if you do all this together, good research actually equals better understanding of our customers and our opportunities, better test ideas, and eventually that is better decision making.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Mate, loads of stuff in there, and you don't have a small job on your hand going up against Google Maps. it's one of the more ambitious plays I've heard in my life. But yeah, the very best of luck to you guys. I'm sure you'll do well. My stepdad, he was a lorry driver, and he swore by TomTom. So yeah, cool. There was a couple of questions in there. So Pete's totally on board with your how might we question, really solutions focused. I love that too. He's really interested in your point about asking questions of users. And do you have any advice or frameworks for helping formulate the questions, for example, when there's something specific you want them to know, and how you go about not leading the witness, so to speak?
Yeah. That's a good question. Thanks for asking, Pete. So I've actually an example. So most of the time, so how to ask questions is as follows. Like, if, for example, you have a design team and design says, okay, we have two different designs for our homepage. And then most of the time the questions like design says, I want to know, we want to do research. It's like, great, good, okay. I want to know, they say then, I want to know which design is better, which one, and what they mean is like, they want to know what people prefer, which one looks better. And then that's already a wrong question from their point of view, because you actually don't want to know which design works best on the website, looks best actually, or what they prefer. It's more about the behavior, right? So for example, if you don't on your homepage is most of the time the most important one of the beginning of your funnel, right? Where people come in, you show your face. And it's more about the behavior you want to go. So for example, if you're a B2B website, I can totally imagine that you want to get people book demos. Or if you are, I don't know, a flight company, you want to get people as soon as a book flights, right? So then the question becomes more of how does the homepage not look good, but initiate that action of making people doing that action, what you want, what you desire. And by rephrasing that, you first thought like, oh, let's do like a simple, preference test. But then that's not the case, because it is better than, for example, do an A/B test to see which one is performing better in doing a particular action. So I hope you answered that a little bit right there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for joining us. Lots of useful things in there. I love the whole linking strategic goals down to actual insights. Now you can sort through those insights to make them, put together plans that are going to impact the numbers and ultimately impress the bosses, and improve customer experience all at the same time. Pete also had you pinned as a Viking leprechaun, so yeah, he's got love that. Nice. But thank you so much for everyone that joined today, particularly for our speakers too, and we'll see you later. Catch you next time.